The word prophecy can sometimes sound intimidating to modern ears. It sounds scary or like a thus saith the Lord one man show kind of thing. But did you know that prophecy can actually be collaborative and fun? To show you what I mean, I want to tell you a story about what happened at my house church just this past Sunday. And it involves college football, old Disney movies, and prophecy. Let's talk about it. Welcome to the Worship Homestead. My name is Nathan Smith. Thank you for joining me. Today, we're going to talk about how fun prophecy can be. But first, I want to give you something. If you go to my website, blueprintsounds.com, you can get access to my free worship training bundle called the Worship Booster Pack. It has PDFs and online classes in everything from songwriting, how to build a better band, arrangement tricks, church sound tricks, all of that and more for free if you just click on the link nearby, blueprintsounds.com/worship booster pack. All right, let's talk about prophecy and having fun with prophecy. One of the great things about having a house church is that people share. They share a meal, they share their lives with each other, but they also share ministry with one another. Rather than the lead pastor having to do everything or the worship pastor having to do everything while most people sit and face forward in rows, is that everybody gets to be a part of doing church, of ministering to one another. And that includes things like prophecy. So let me explain. It's not complicated. It's actually kind of funny. Here's how the story goes. This weekend, my wife and I had two friends over, my brother Brandon and our other friend Carrie, who both come to our house church. So Saturday is pretty typical. I'll go shopping, and then in the evening, we'll come over, and Brandon cooked on this occasion. And so we all sat down to a meal, our friends, and then my three children, my two girls and my youngest boy, who's only 4 months. And it's kind of a raucous affair because my girls are 4 and 2. And so they want to play with Bubba and they want to play with Carrie. And then we get their jammies on and they head to bed. And then afterwards, we just had coffee and tea and chocolate and fruit and just hung out in the living room and talked. So me, Leslie, Carrie, and Brandon. So as we're talking and just, talking about our week, the funny things that happened in work and all the rest of it, Brandon somehow got on the topic of old Disney movies. So we're talking about like even the black and white stuff, like Son of Flubber, The Absent-Minded Professor, The World's Greatest Athlete, the old Disney live action stuff. And we were talking about how Medfield was always the name of the college that was in trouble, but they had a big game against their rival. And I was making coffee and I said, what is the name? Remember that college that was always Medfield's rival? It's always the same, right? No matter what movie it is, it's always Medfield, but there's always that other college that's their rival. What's the name of that college? And of course, I didn't know, and Brandon didn't know. So he's on his phone looking for it. I get on my phone and I start to Google it and try and figure it out. And Leslie, my wife, does the same thing. So I found it first, but I didn't want to say because I wanted people to guess. And then Leslie Googled it and she says, "Oh, the college is called Rutledge." And I said, "No. It's called Rutland. Rutland. It's Rutland." And she was like, "Oh, okay." So, oh yeah, okay. It's Medfield and Rutland. Those were always the two colleges in those old Disney films. So we move on with things. And next, we just decided to go down memory lane in our phones. And so Leslie's looking at old pictures, and she goes a couple of years back, and she happens upon some old pictures of her old students. She's a 5th grade teacher, and she looked at a picture and says, "Oh, yeah, that's Ryland. Why is that picture up there?" So she was just telling a story about Ryland and thought that was cute. Anyway, life goes on, not thinking about it. The next day, she sees a slip of paper on the TV stand, and it has the name Ryland on it. Well, she had brought home some books for the girls to read, and a slip of paper had come out of one of those books and somehow landed on the TV stand, and it had Ryland's name on it. And she was like, "That's weird. I was just talking about Ryland last night and found pictures of him. Here's his name on this slip of paper, and the name of that school that Medfield always played was called Rutland." And she had this thought, like, okay, that's funny. There's 3 things, all these land things are coming together at the same time. God, are you trying to tell me something with this Ryland, Rutland thing. And here's what she heard the Lord say. The Lord said, I'm highlighting the land. That was it. I'm highlighting the land. So she told me that. And I thought, oh, that's interesting. So she told me that Sunday morning. Sunday night, we have our house service. So we get together, we have dinner, we have coffee, we clean up, we start to play some worship. So I'm playing some worship songs. And then after that, Leslie tells this funny little story, everything that I just told you. But as she tells the story this time, and she said, what I heard God say is that I'm highlighting the land, instantly, something popped into my head that didn't pop into my head the first time she told me that story. And that is what happened on Friday night. So let's back up to Friday. So on Friday, there was a duck game. We live in Eugene, Oregon, which is the home of the Oregon Ducks, in the Willamette Valley. And they were playing Michigan State. And so the football game is on, but I'm not hearing much of it, because my girls are just about ready for a bath, but they're all crazy because they're all excited about the game. They have no idea what the game is. They just know that they need to yell when somebody scores a touchdown. So as a result, I'm not hearing much of the commentary at all. So I grab the girls during halftime. Okay, let's take a bath, get them bathed, and I hand them off to mom so she can get their jammies on and get their hair combed. And I take Simeon, who's 4 months, and we sit on the couch, and I'm going to watch the second half. Well, the game is pretty lopsided. Oregon is much better than Michigan State. But two things happened during the game which stood out. The first is Oregon, the Willamette Valley, is absolutely beautiful, and it's really beautiful in the fall. It really shows off. And so on this occasion, they come back from a commercial break and they're showing Autzen Stadium, which is where the Ducks play. But they've zoomed out wide, and you see this fiery sunset, which is just spectacular. It's blues and pinks and purples, and it's just totally upstaging the game. The game is happening, but with the camera panned out, even the commentators from time to time, when Oregon is like this, they'll say, whoa, that, it's just amazing. The mountains, the rivers, the forests, Oregon really shows off in the fall. And so for just that few moments, everybody kind of took a second in the TV, production to just honor this is a pretty amazing place to live. And then, of course, they zoom into the game and what's actually happening. So I noticed that because that's happened a couple times, over the years that I've watched football. So then we're watching the game. And again, like I said, it's lopsided. Oregon is wearing these electric yellow jerseys because they're very flashy. They like to change up their jerseys a lot because they've got all that Nike money. So they're wearing, very flashy jerseys, and these just ginormous, athletes, these mountains of men are, pummeling Michigan State's quarterback because the offensive line can't keep them away. And twice this came up. The commentators, as they're watching these, huge athletes sack the quarterback yet again, the commentator says, man, Oregon tonight looks like a bunch of angry highlighters. And then again, they said, there comes highlighter yellow Oregon, pummeling the quarterback. And they said it twice, and that kind of stuck out to me. Well, anyway, as Leslie was talking about what she heard the Lord say, she heard the Lord say, I'm highlighting the land. I remembered what had happened on Friday. I was like, wait, highlight the land. That's exactly what the commentator said on Friday, that Oregon players looked like they were bright, angry yellow highlighters. That's so weird. So all of that comes together on Sunday night. We have the Oregon yellow highlighters. We have Saturday night Medfield versus Rutland land. And then Leslie is looking at pictures of her student Ryland. And then the next day sees a slip of paper with Ryland's name on it. God is definitely highlighting the land, just like he told Leslie. Well, what does that mean? We're not entirely sure. But that's the fun of prophecy, is that God used 3 different occasions to point to one thing. He's like, hey, everybody, look here, look here, look here. And it wasn't a big, thus saith the Lord. It wasn't mean. It wasn't intimidating. And it didn't even come into one person, although Leslie is, the one that got to discover that pattern and see that. She got the word, but it was collaborative. There were a lot of people and there were a lot of things involved in getting that word. Well, like I said, we don't know what all of that means. There's some things that we're unpacking and what it means that God is highlighting the land. But for the last, I would say, year and a half, we've been really, really interested and really connected with our land, more so than in the past. I've lived here I've lived here 20 plus years, and only now am really understanding the deep connection that God wants us to have with our land, as he wants everyone, wherever they live, to have a deep connection with their land. And so we've been praying a lot more for the land than we have in the past. We've been blessing the land. We've been asking God to heal the land. There's a lot of stuff that we've been doing with land over the course of a year, because God absolutely cares about land. Just like he cared about the promised land in Israel, he cares about the land that you and I live on. Well, isn't it fun that God would use the things in our life to point to land and say, hey, I want you to pray in this way? Even to the point of having commentators on college football stations talk about highlighters and land. Just an amazing orchestration that God wove all of those different parts together so that Leslie could pick up on it and see what's going on. That's how prophecy can work. And like I said at the beginning, it's a collaborative effort. It's not all just on one person. And that's kind of fun. And there's safety in that oh, my piece fit with your piece, fit with her piece. It all comes together and God is saying something to us, and God has a sense of humor. That's something else that I think a lot of people in the church need to remember, is that God absolutely has a sense of humor, and he's quite funny. And when we get the joke, that pulls us not only into the meaning of the prophecy, it pulls us into his heart, because he's relational. God is a God who wants to be known, and he wants to share his humor with us. I hope that helps you, and I hope it inspires you to be on the lookout. God can use anything to speak to us, whether it's a donkey, a college football team, or an old Disney movie. Hey, if you're listening to the podcast and you like it, please leave a good review. It helps me out. Likewise, if you're on YouTube, like and subscribe. And if you need help with your worship team, click on the link nearby, blueprintsounds.com/worship booster pack. Until next week, God bless and goodbye.